District 7, vote for Regina Ross
November 7, 2017
for City Council.
Detroit, I want to be your voice. My priorities are to educate the children, to provide training programs and employment for the citizens of Detroit. We want to redevelop the neighborhoods. We would like to see major grocery stores in the neighborhoods, sit-down restaurants, family entertainment. These are things that we would like in our neighborhood.
Look forward to cleaner neighborhoods, a safer community, jobs and revenue, renovated houses, beautification, plants and gardens, and helping citizens obtain grants. Regina Ross is a community leader for the people of Detroit. District 7, vote Regina Ross for City Council.
November 7, 2017.
I'm Regina Ross, and I approve this message.
If you hear this message, wherever you stand, I'm calling every woman, calling every man. We're the generation, we can't afford to wait. The future started yesterday, and we're already late. We've been looking for a song to sing. Search for a...
Good morning, Detroit. My name is Marshall Bryant, and also with us today, Regina.
I'm Regina Ross.
And we also have a special guest with us sitting at the table. We're starting off a little different, and that's because this is a very special month and is dedicated to breast cancer awareness and also domestic violence. So we're going to start right in with our interviews today. We have two guests. We have Ronita Powell and we have Jay Shulo that will be with us later. And these ladies, they're here to talk to us about breast cancer awareness and also domestic violence. And we know these topics, they cross every socioeconomic line. There's no barrier for race. It can affect anyone, including men too. So we're going to have some deep discussions today. So let's start right in. So I'll let you lead, Regina.
Okay. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your company, your foundation,
Okay.
your background information, how you
So
got started?
my name is Renita Powell. I am the vice chairman for My Sister's Keeper domestic violence organization. We are founded right here in Detroit. We work to serve our community diligently to help eradicate the prevalence of domestic violence in our city and nationwide.
Okay, that sounds good.
It is. That's awesome. Now, how did you get involved directly with My Sister's Keeper?
So for me, starting out, I was interested, per se,
Okay.
in helping to end domestic violence. Our founder, Chanel Major, she provided a platform for me and our other members to join. Myself, I have not encountered domestic violence, but I have been a victim by witnessing and also by the emotional abuse through someone else.
Okay.
Right. So that did that lead you to want to get involved in the?
Definitely, definitely. I knew that it was something that was wrong. I knew that it was something that needed change, and I wanted to be a part of that because it was so important to me. It was so close to home, so I wanted to make for sure that I had a part in helping to end it.
Okay. Now, the founder with Chanel and with her starting the organization, can you tell us a little bit about her passion
Sure.
and why she started?
So our founder, Chanel Major, she started this organization because her sister was a victim of domestic violence. She actually lost her life due to domestic violence. Chanel has also been a victim of domestic violence. But to start out, her sister was killed on her 25th birthday. She and her boyfriend had broken up, but she went to see him on her birthday. It is assumed that around maybe 12 o'clock is when you start to get the happy birthday text, oh, good to see you, I can't wait to see you, that we believe that he became enraged because of it. The two of them, they got into a struggle. She attempted to leave. She did leave. But en route of her leaving, she got on 96. She was going home, and he got in his car behind her, and he chased her. Through chasing her, he hit her car multiple times. She ended up going into the medium, and she was then ejected from the vehicle because she didn't have on a seatbelt.
Oh, wow.
The police were called. The police came, and when they came, they talked to him, and he acted like he didn't know who she was.
Wow.
Like it was a mistake. It wasn't supposed to happen. But luckily, there were other witnesses that were there, and they stopped and they told the police that he was trying to hurt her.
Wow.
So from there, thank God he was arrested after he sought medical attention. But it is so sad that someone had to lose their life at the hands of another because of nothing.
Right.
Right. Why don't you talk about the phases? Are there 4 phases of domestic violence? Because it sounds like in his case, he was going through something else, something mentally or physically wrong. Well, I won't say physically, but definitely mentally within. Why don't you talk about that?
With domestic violence, there are different phases. Domestic violence can be in the form of emotional abuse. It can be in the form of physical abuse, which is most prevalent. There is the risk of sexual assault. There are many things that go into domestic violence. Domestic violence is not just about the physical nature of someone putting their hands on you.
Right. Right. So you were saying that you witnessed yourself. Would you be able to talk about what you witnessed and what that looked like and how that affected you to motivate you?
So as a child, I remember being 7 years old, and my brother was actually the abuser in this situation. I witnessed him and his girlfriend get into it several times. I didn't necessarily ever see him hit her, but I had seen him shove her. I would hear him holler at her. I would hear the way that he would belittle her. There were times that I would be so fearful that I would go into the bathroom, because that was the only vent that went right down into the basement, and I would put my ear to the vent and I would listen late at night to when he did come into the house to hear, does it sound like her screams are muffled? Does it sound like he's slapping her? Does it sound like he's hurting her? So that I could get my mom up to go downstairs and stop him. So he never put his hands on me. Thankfully, I've never been in a situation where I have been emotionally abused, verbally abused, or physically assaulted, but most of the women in my family have.
Right.
So it's become a cycle that has repeated itself over and over and over again. But although we've all gone through it, no one has talked about it. No one has said, I have to put an end to it. We know that our kids know that we've gone through it, but no one has stepped out there to say, you are better than this.
Right.
Well, it sounds like you are stepping out there to make a
definitely.
difference.
Right.
And a question I had, do you think, you said this is your brother.
Yes.
So do you think that it started maybe with his dad?
I do. I gave him an interview per se, just to see where his mind was and to see what affected him. And it definitely started with his father. It definitely started with his father. He grew up knowing that his father and my mom were in a domestic situation at times. It started with his father choosing to be present when he wanted to be. And that then, I think, enraged him. And I think that allocated to some emotional things that he went through. He himself, he told me that, he felt as though he was inadequate, and that was why he did it. But that's not an excuse.
Right.
It's never an excuse. Also, drugs, weed, drinking, things of that nature, they definitely add to a person's irritability, a person's enablement to be self-manageable. All those things take account, but when is it enough?
Right. Now, speaking of men go through domestic violence where they are abused themselves. We don't often hear, because men normally they will either shut down or just kind of keep it to themselves. What does your organization work with men as well, or what would you say to men that are going through it?
We definitely do.
Okay.
I think that because most victims of domestic violence are women, that's what we push.
Right.
We hush the fact that men go through it too. Women are manipulators just as well. Women can be physical. Women can provide emotional abuse. Those things of that nature, like those things happen. But for men, they feel as though most of the time it makes them weak. I can't go to my boy, to my brother and say, I'm in this situation. You know, I don't feel as though men have that platform.
Right, they're more macho. It's a macho thing, so
Definitely.
I can't tell that that's happening to me.
It's-
Because even as a woman, it's hard for us to say,
Oh,
well,
yeah.
this is happening to me and I'm being abused. So it's hard for me to even imagine how a man would feel. And like I said, that macho piece comes in.
It does.
Right. Wow.
But it's definitely, it's a social thing here, period. Socially, it's just not acceptable. In most cases, for a man to say, you know, I'm going through this. But in order for it to end, in order for it to start somewhere, you have to be vocal. You have to tell someone, because now you're raising daughters, you're raising sons that may feel as though it's okay.
Right.
And it's not. And it's not. We have to be more vigilant about it. Men have to also speak out.
And then some of that comes from the family that says everything that stays in the house, it
Oh, yeah.
doesn't leave the house.
Right.
That cycle has to stop too, because it just breeds generation after generation of generational curses.
It does.
That, you know, you just never break the cycle. Your organization, what percentage in Michigan have you seen, or what with young students? How early do you begin to work with them? Can you give us information?
So in Michigan, it's kind of hard to say what the actual percentage is, because the statistics go off of what is reported.
Right.
Okay.
Most of the time in Michigan, about 200,000 incidents per year go unreported.
Okay.
So that's hard, but it starts extremely young. It starts as young as preschool.
And I was going to say that. I agree with you because I see it in the school system.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not reported, but you can see it after a
can.
while. I mean, if you've been, for me, I'm a teacher, certified teacher, and so I've been teaching for years, and I can see when something isn't right. But unfortunately, we can't do anything about it until it repeats itself and repeats itself. Then we have to say something about it.
And that's,
Yeah, to gather the evidence, because you always have to have evidence.
you do. But it's so sad.
It is sad.
It's sad that we don't equip our children with the knowledge that they need. They know it's wrong. They can feel that it's wrong.
Right.
They know mommy or daddy or whomever else is hurting, but we don't equip them with that knowledge to know what to do, who to go to, who to talk to about it. And we don't tell them the truth. We dress it up, we make it pretty,
Right.
and this is how the cycle continues to repeat, because we don't address it head on. And we have to start to do that. We have to have those conversations. I know I'm a parent now too, and I plan to start having those direct conversations with my daughter as early as 3. You don't do this, you don't do that. If someone does this, you tell, you know, because kids are seeing it at home.
Right.
Now they're coming to school and they're doing the same thing.
Right.
You hear about more cases of sexual incidents that occur, sexual abuse that's occurring younger in school. That's a form of domestic violence. You're hearing about kids coming and you didn't want to be my friend, so I hit you in the face. We have to learn other outlets.
Right.
Right, and we do address those issues because I work with the little children, and one of the things that I'm finding that they just think that that's normal. That's the norm for them because that's what happens at home.
Sure.
So a lot of times I do have to tell them, no, we don't do that. That's not appropriate. And then we do the X's. We do no touching here, or in the back with the X. So like I said, we have to because they just don't know.
I think that's great, but we also, as parents and just being a family member, we have to also take what it is that you're giving our kids, and we have to do it at home. We have to. That's the only way it's going to stick.
Right.
That's the only way.
And then that sense, it seems like it's a sense of entitlement when someone says, you don't want to be my friend, so now this is what I'm going to do. It's teaching. The only entitlement you have is really to yourself. People have free will. You can't make them subjected to what you want. You know?
Well, you're right, but a lot of times that's how domestic violence starts because in relationships, The man wants the woman to do what he wants to do, controlling. You're not going to see your friends. I'll take care of you. You
Right.
don't need them anymore. Things like that.
Yeah,
You
women
wanna
do
talk
that
about
too.
that?
Women definitely do too. And that we do.
Yeah,
we do. You know, and
women
sometimes
can do
we
things
do.
to keep a man from. I don't want you to go out with your friends, or if I don't want you to get out of the relationship, come up with different type of tactics. You know,
And-
because
and
we
we
think more. You know.
Oh yeah, we've seen some of the devious things that
Yeah,
have been done.
Definitely. And that's the thing to look for. So I'll start with the men. Signs to look for. Just that right there.
Right.
I don't want you to go out with your friends. I want you to stay home with me. Or now you've gone out and I'm going to the police. I'm filing a fake report. Now I'm spreading rumors. I'm spreading lies about you. He did this to me. He did that to me. And that's not the case. Belittling your partner. You know, men go through it too, but we don't talk about it. Even with
Right.
women, it's just the incidents all around is about control. That's the main thing. It's about control. The more control I have over you, the more I can change who you hang with. I can change how you act, how you dress, how you speak. So we tell people to look for someone that wants you to only be about them. You can't be about you. It can't be about your growth. It can't be about your self-worth. I need it to be about me. Things of that nature. Emotionally putting you down. But the biggest thing that I have seen and that I've known is that people that are victims of domestic violence, they feel as though it's my fault. I shouldn't have worn this. I shouldn't have asked her if she wanted something else to eat again. I shouldn't have asked him how was his day. You know, all cases of domestic violence don't have signs. Sometimes it just happens.
And that's why it happens a lot, because there are not signs. So sometimes it's not signs, or we're in denial.
Definitely. Denial is the biggest thing. And even for the people that surround us that are supposed to be our support, sometimes it's that denial and it's that self-victimization that people go through. And, you know, we have to, as a society, we have to get better with that.
Right.
Because we feel as though victim blaming is okay. Well, you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have did this. And so we really have to work to end that and change the dynamic of the conversation and change how we approach it.
Well, we're going to go to break shortly. Before we go, I definitely want you to give the information of where you can be located for My Sister's Keeper and how a little bit about Safe Havens. We're going to come back and talk a little bit more, because I want to talk about how that control is associated with love for some reason, because we think it's, you know, the minute somebody gets, they're jealous, and we associate it with, you know, love and being cute, and it's a little deeper than that.
Definitely
It
is.
can. So can you give the information for My Sister's Keeper?
Sure. So we have our crisis hotline. We can be reached at 248-509-4616. We are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Men, women, children, if you need our support, you can call us. We'll help you to devise an escape plan. You can also reach us at mysisterskeeperdvo.org. We would greatly appreciate those that reach out, because we want to be employed in our community. We want to help end it, and if you can also help to contribute to that, we would love to have you, and we would love to take your input for it.
Okay. Well, Ronita, we are really glad that you came in today to share this
Thank you so much.
information. You're going to come back the last segment of the show, and we're going to continue this
Right.
conversation. So we're going to briefly go to break, and when we come back, we are going to have Jay Shulo to come and share information with us about breast cancer awareness. And believe it or not, the conversation will still continue, and it ties in breast cancer awareness and domestic violence. So please stay tuned and come back.
If you hear this message, wherever you stand, I'm calling every woman, calling every man. We're the generation, we can't afford to wait.
District 7, vote for Regina Ross November 7, 2017 for City Council.
Detroit, I want to be your voice. My priorities are to educate the children, to provide training programs and employment for the citizens of Detroit. We want to redevelop the neighborhoods. We would like to see major grocery stores in the neighborhoods, sit-down restaurants, family entertainment. These are things that we would like in our neighborhood.
Look forward to cleaner neighborhoods, a safer community, jobs and revenue, renovated houses, beautification, plants and gardens, and helping citizens obtain grants.
Regina Ross is a community leader for the people of Detroit. District 7, vote Regina Ross for City Council.
November 7, 2017.
I'm Regina Ross, and I approve this message.
If you hear this message, wherever you stand, I'm calling every woman, calling every man.
Well, welcome back, Detroit. We are back on the set, and we have Jay Shulo here with us, and she is the executive director of Shades of Pink Foundation, which is a breast cancer foundation. And Ms. Shulo, how did you begin with Shades of Pink Foundation?
Well, I saw an ad on the Michigan Nonprofit Association website, and I was intrigued by what they had to say, so I went to their website and I started reading up about them and the work that they did, and I knew immediately I wanted this job. Okay. And so I think I prepped for this interview more than I prepped for any interview ever. Just went in and just had an honest conversation, with the board. And I guess I said the right things because, that was a year ago, and here we are.
Oh, good.
Right. A lot of passion. It must have shown right up, and I know just speaking with you, you're very passionate about the cause in itself. And how did the organization begin ultimately altogether?
Like a lot of things with women, it began over a cup of coffee. About 12 years ago, Dr. Pamela Benitez and Suzanne Kruger got together to talk about a mutual friend of theirs who was experiencing some difficulty after her breast cancer diagnosis, affording her treatment and the medications and still taking care of her kids as a single mom. So they thought something needed to be done, and what happens when women get together and decide something needs to be done? Something gets done. So so that was 12 years ago. I think they made a couple $1,000s their first year, and we just had our 11th annual Zoo Walk this past April. That's our big annual event, and it raised over $300,000.
Wow. Wonderful. Yeah. So why were you so compassionate about it? Is it just something that you just felt the need for? Was someone in your family involved with the breast cancer, or some friends or something? Or it's just something that you thought needed to be handled and taken care of?
I've had a couple of cousins pass away from breast cancer, and there's been some breast cancer diagnoses in the family. But I think it's something that just resonates with women.
Right.
It's something that, there's so many things that every woman deals with. It's just, it's a universal experience. We're dealing with, our body image. We're dealing with, mortality, and we're worried about our families. We're thinking about breast cancer and our femininity and what does that mean to us as women. And I think it's something that resonates with all women, whether you've had breast cancer, or not. But we do live in a time where you can't escape being touched by it in some way.
Right.
Everybody knows somebody.
Right.
Right. So would you be able to share some of the statistics and some of just information that we need to know in Michigan as far as making sure we're staying aware and constantly, keeping the movement going? It's not something that after this month we should just, let's tuck it away till next year. No.
Right. Well, the statistics are huge, and sometimes we talk in this country these giant numbers. Someone once said to me that the lotto isn't worth playing unless it hits like 20 million. So when you think about 250,000 plus women in the United States who are diagnosed each year, it's a large number to think about, and it becomes overwhelming, so we sort of tuck it away.
Right.
But in Michigan, if we were to break that down just for Michigan, about 8,000 Michigan women a year are diagnosed with breast cancer. About 3,000 of those live right in the Metro Detroit area, in Macomb, Oakland, Washtenaw, and Wayne counties. So of that 8,000 women, 80% will have no family history of the disease. So that means that, it came from, it was chance, it was environmental, it was lifestyle. So these things that as advocates, and by talking about it and having conversations like this, maybe we can help some people change their lifestyle, change the things that they're doing, go out, seek treatment, get those screenings, and we can start working on those statistics and, increasing survivability.
So with the organization, with the granting and the funding, the most important thing with that, can you talk a little bit what women suffer from having the disease, going through the treatment, and dealing with a job, you know?
One of the most shocking statistics that we talk about is the fact that about 30% of breast cancer patients will lose their job because of time off they have to take during treatment and recovery. And in Michigan, if you look at the 8,000 who are diagnosed, that's more than 2,600 women who, because of the time they have to take off for treatment to save their lives, they're going to lose their jobs. And I can share an actual example of that. Last year, we helped a woman who had, she was diagnosed with breast cancer in the fall. She exhausted all of her sick time, all of her vacation time, so she went on family medical leave. Had her first surgery, she was recovering. So in the 11th week of her recovery, her employer called her and said, "Are you coming back to work after next week?" And she said, "I can't. I gave you all that documentation about my second surgery." She did everything right. She did everything she was supposed to do. And they said, "If you don't come back after next week, you're fired." And that was it. In just a few months span, she went from being a college educated, single mom with full-time employment with insurance to losing her home, losing her job, moving in with family. So it really, it's just staggering. Even as I sit here and you tell people that statistic, and they sometimes look at you like, well, that can't be right. That can't be legal. That can't be acceptable. Why aren't we hearing about things like this? And I think this ties back into, the entire topic that, as women, our job, we are the glue. Our job is to maintain. Our job is to move forward, is to move our families forward. So when you're dealing with a crisis like this, you put yourself in the back seat and, you forge onward and do what you have to do for your family in the midst of all of this crisis that's happening to you.
And just imagine how everything just spirals down because, like you said, nobody expects mom to get sick. We expect you to have everything done, keep it moving, keep it going, and then to deal with that with the job. And then the other thing that's really shocking is when life happens, just like with domestic violence. How does that tie in as well? Because we don't think about those things, but that's a part of life and it happens.
It does. And, I actually began my career many, many years ago working in domestic violence advocacy. And I worked for an organization called Turning Point, which is way over on the east side. And, we know that rates of domestic violence increase during times of crisis, during times of economic hardship. And, like we discussed before, it really comes back to control and feeling, that loss of control. When you look at the financial aspect of, a cancer diagnosis or any, medical diagnosis, that certainly exacerbates, what may be an already tenuous situation. There's just the fear in the family.
And that brings on stress.
Absolutely. And that's the number one thing. Absolutely, that's the number one thing. And what we don't talk about often, and I know that you see as educators, is the impact that has on the kids. Because we sugarcoat it for the kids. Yes, mommy's sick, but we don't always tell them exactly what's going on because they hear the word cancer and then of course they know people who, well, grandpa died from cancer or so-and-so's mom or, and we don't have a lingo in our country, in our culture for talking about, our mortality and the possibility that something can happen. We really don't know how to address kids. And so then the kids take that, into school and then, there you are as, you're the educators, right? And as the non-parents trying to, navigate that and what can I say and how can I say this in a neutral way.
Right. So does your organization provide any counseling for students as well? Have you started to go into the schools and work with those students that may, have a parent that is dealing with breast cancer?
We don't. We very much, our mission is to provide temporary financial assistance for women and families who have experienced hardship due to a breast cancer diagnosis. But we do give referrals, and when we, find out from other organizations that, they're doing certain things, absolutely, it's our moral obligation to get that information out there and make sure that that information is accessible. I have the privilege of meeting people all the time in different places, and different foundations who can provide that help. So we do what we can to get that out to the public. I have gone into, a couple schools just, this time of the year, October, a lot of schools are doing their programs. And these kids, they are aware. They're absolutely aware. They know the statistics. But just like domestic violence and men, what they don't know about, and what more than 60% of men don't know about, is that they can get breast cancer too. I was at a school festival, kind of thing, and I do this breast cancer trivia game that I have, this big spinning wheel. And so these kids came up and they're like, oh, we're talking about boobs. We know all about that. We're experts. So they spun the wheel, and I purposefully brought out the questions about men and breast cancer. And they got it wrong. And they said, well, wait a minute, guys, like men can get breast cancer. And they actually said, and it's funny, but sometimes you have to go for the humor to make the lesson. And they said, well, that's like fat men, like with man boobs, right? That's not like we're in shape. I'm like, you have breast tissue, you have cells, you can get breast cancer. 1 in 1,000 men in our country can get breast cancer. So it's something that we absolutely have to be aware of. They can do breast self exams. Same thing, as women, feel the armpit, any changes.
And that's good you brought that up, because most men probably don't know that
Don't
they can do
know,
that
yes.
too. So can you
Yes.
say that one more time?
Yes, men do
Examine
breast
itself.
self-exams.
Right.
Feel yourself, check under the armpit. You're looking for changes in your skin. You're looking for changes in coloration. Anything, your body, just like women, we know our body. So anything that isn't right, go to the doctor, advocate for yourself, and stand your ground and say, this is not right. I know who I am. I know how I'm supposed to feel. And there is nothing about it that makes you less of a man, just like there is nothing about having breast cancer surgery and losing a breast or both breasts that make you less of a woman.
Right. Well, we really thank you for coming on and sharing. Can you tell people in the community how they can contact you, for more information, or if they're looking for some help so they can further get the information they need?
Absolutely. You can find us on the internet. It's shadesofpinkfoundation.org. And if you want to give us a call, talk to us, we can tell you about the program. We can tell you how to apply for assistance. Our phone number is 248-318-6603.
Okay. And do you have anything, I know today you have something going on in Livonia, correct?
We do, yeah,
Okay.
we do. The Italian American Club of Livonia puts on this incredible fashion show fundraiser, and the proceeds are divided between the Italian American Charitable League and Shades of Pink Foundation. It's one of my favorite. It's a great day of empowerment, and the models are all breast cancer survivors. We have fashions by Worth and Chico there, beautiful gowns by Roma Sposa. So it's a great uplifting afternoon.
Right, that's great. And then they're contributing for the granting. How does the granting, how does it work when people need those funds?
If you need assistance, we will direct you to apply through the social worker, your nurse navigator, your patient liaison, your oncologist, whomever you're speaking with at the facility where you receive care. We have made contact with every cancer care facility in Southeast Michigan, so they know who we are. They know how to get through to us. It's a very simple 3-page application. You submit the bills that you need coverage for. We cover things like rent, mortgage, utilities, insurance premiums, et cetera, child care, and then we have a committee that looks at that. We take all the identifying information out. The committee looks at that completely anonymously, and then determines what's eligible, what isn't, and they will notify you, and then we will pay like your mortgage company directly, or DTE, or whatever it is that you need. Each month we grant out about $20,000 to $30,000. Right here in Southeast Michigan. So all donations that come to our foundation are used right here in Southeast Michigan to help, these are your neighbors, your friends, your family.
Right. And I'm glad you brought that out, because a lot of times we just think, okay, well, that person is going through cancer, they're going through treatments, but we don't look at the other part. Okay, well, you can't afford to pay your mortgage. You can't afford, like you were saying, the lady lost her house. Those are things that we have to think about. So it's very important when someone comes to us and say, will you donate to the Cancer Foundation? It's very important for us to do that because unfortunately cancer, it's not prejudice. So
No.
it can happen to any of us. And it's just something that we have to be more abreast about, and and more opportunities to raise money, because that's a wonderful thing. Every month you give out monies, so we do need to donate. So you want to give that phone number? Is there a phone number where they can reach?
Yes, I'll give the phone number one more time. That's 248-318-6603. And I want to say, just to really highlight what the emotional impact is, and I keep these notes down here because the statistics sometimes are shocking, and I always have to double check them. Going back to the 8,000 Michigan women who are diagnosed each year with breast cancer, more than 1,800 of them will do things like cut pills in half or skip doses due to high drug costs. More than 2,600 will have problems affording their necessary medications, and about 2,000 are going to completely use up their entire life savings. Breast cancer is expensive. The average patient pays $1,500 a month out of pocket, and those are patients that have insurance. So it's, it's even more, and it doesn't matter if you are, receiving aid, or if you're, middle class, working class, upper class. Shades of Pink Foundation does not make determinations based on your income. If you come in, with that, signed statement and application from your social worker or wherever you're receiving care, that's all we need. That's all we need. Need is relative, and we're here to help families and to help women, and to, not differentiate between, who needs help more or less. That is not our call. And if I could just, end with, just a story of kind of sometimes how far-reaching it goes. We were doing a fundraiser out in Howell, and I approached somebody, and she said to me, she goes, well, wait a minute, you're from Shades of Pink Foundation? And I said, I am. And she said, 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer, and you paid my mortgage.
Wonderful.
It made the difference. It got me through. It gave me the strength, just knowing that was there, and I was able to rest. And I went home, and I'm telling my kids the story at dinner, because what a great story. I don't, as the director, I don't get to meet or speak to the women who we help. I have no idea. It's all very anonymous. So unless they volunteer later or come out like that, I don't know. So my kids said, did you get a selfie? And I went, no. And they're like, Ma, you didn't get a selfie. And I'm just a little too old for, selfies to be like that automatic reflex that it is for our kids. But it was truly just an incredible moment. And, you realize then, the impact that you have. And
all your hours of work.
And just, the odds of my speaking to that woman at that moment, was just incredible. So we really do touch lives, and these people are surviving, and then they're able to go, forth in their life and pay it forward, and then they're helping somebody.
That is really amazing, and we are so grateful that you came out and you agreed
Thank you for having
do
me.
the show, and we would definitely like to have quarterly conversations about that.
Great.
This is not something
Because
that
we have to expand on that and let people know what's going on. Because when you hear the word cancer, it's like, okay, well, yeah, the Cancer Society. And like you were saying about the month of October, they think it's just that 1 month. No, you can talk about that. It's every month.
It is. It is every month. It's every month. It's every day. It's every neighborhood. It's every ethnicity. It's, it's all of us. And there are so many topics from, fertility to, our, self-esteem as women, and how that's, tied into, this, culture that, puts our femininity and our, our beauty, into our breasts. So there are so many things that we can talk about, even beyond the financial aspects.
Okay, well, we're going to go to a brief break, and when we come back, we're going to continue the discussion, but we're going to connect it together to have a further, deeper discussion about domestic violence and breast cancer. So just stay tuned and come back with us after this short break.
If you hear this message, wherever you stand, I'm calling every woman, calling every man.
District 7, vote for Regina Ross
November 7, 2017.
for City Council.
Detroit, I want to be your voice. My priorities are to educate the children, to provide training programs and employment for the citizens of Detroit. We want to redevelop the neighborhoods. We would like to see major grocery stores in the neighborhoods, sit-down restaurants, family entertainment. These are things that we would like in our neighborhood.
Look forward to cleaner neighborhoods, a safer community, jobs and revenue, renovated houses, beautification, plants and gardens, and helping citizens obtain grants.
Regina Ross is a community leader for the people of Detroit. District 7, vote Regina Ross for City Council.
November 7, 2017.
I'm Regina Ross, and I approve this message.
Welcome, Judge Mathis. Thanks for coming to share an important message with the Wayne County taxpayers.
Well, thank you for allowing me to help. You know, most of my life I was a resident of Wayne County, and so I'm here to help because Treasurer Shabri wants to work with Wayne County homeowners to keep families in their homes and prevent foreclosure.
If you're having trouble making your property tax payments, let us know. We have many resources to help.
Take the first step towards staying in your home by going down to the Wayne County Treasurer's office on the 5th floor of the International Building in Greektown.
Stop by today to learn more about our payment plans and especially the newly extended interest rate reduction program.
Already in a payment plan? It's important you stay in good standing.
Making property tax payments is now easier than ever. We have placed payment kiosks in Rite Aid stores and community centers across the county. We've also added kiosks in our offices. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com.
If you hear this message, wherever you stand, I'm calling every woman, calling every man.
And welcome back, Detroit. And we are going to finish the last portion of our show with all of our guests here. So this conversation should be really great to tie in with both of the guests. So, Regina.
Right. We were talking earlier, and I forgot to ask you about your funding program that you're into and how people can contact you for donating money for your project. You're trying to get a building, right?
We are.
Okay.
We are.
Okay.
MSKDVO is working very diligently to raise money to open our women's shelter 2018. It is extremely hard to find shelter when you're in that situation. So we want to make sure that we are a direct advocate for our community. We don't just want to talk about it. We want to be about it. And we want to open our shelter next year. So right now, it's going into maybe mid-November. We are currently selling T-shirts. The same T-shirt that I have on right now. We are selling this T-shirt to help raise money to open that shelter. The proceeds are going directly towards opening the shelter. All year we do campaigns all the time to attempt to raise money for the shelter. All the proceeds go directly to opening the shelter. We don't make any money off of it, and I think oftentimes with local organizations, even big organizations, we don't see the little bit that goes into it. We're not making any money. We just want to help our community, and we want to help get people out of their situations.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's a very worthy cause because, like you're saying, if you're in a situation, domestic violence, and all of a sudden I'm out of my house, I'm on the street, and I have nowhere to go, and I just have the clothes on my back, I really need help instantly, right then and there.
And domestic violence is the third leading cause of homelessness in the nation. So it's extremely important that we be there, even for just the women and people that we help, to help provide them clothing, to help provide funding, because sometimes you get up and you leave with just the clothes on your back.
Right, because as we're talking about that, in my mind, I'm thinking, what if that happened to me? I couldn't imagine that. I just couldn't imagine. All you have is the clothes on your back. That's it.
Yep.
And your life, but you do have your life. Yeah, you do have your life, but that's still a bitter pill to swallow.
Definitely is. So that's why we are asking people to donate. Go on My Sister's Keeper, DVO.org, click that button, donate some money. Is going towards a great cause.
Right, and buy a T-shirt.
Buy a T-shirt.
I'll buy a T-shirt. I want a T-shirt. Well, and I think too, sometimes people think, well, I don't have much. there's no such thing as a small donation.
Yes.
Right.
You know, for us, $100 keeps someone's heat on for a month.
Right.
Exactly.
You know, $30 will pay for sheets to put on a bed in that
Right.
shelter. So it really does. It really does make a difference. You know, there's small things you can do. Have a neighborhood garage sale.
Right.
You come up with a couple $100. That money changes lives.
And then I look at it too. Well, $5. If 20 people gave $5, there we
you
go,
go.
100.
There we go.
And $5 probably won't
Yep.
hurt you too much financially. And we can do it.
And
Like
even
you
if you
said, the
don't have
garage
five.
sale.
Yep. The power is in our numbers.
Right. $2, $3, whatever you have.
Yep.
Right.
All the money adds up.
And it's greatly appreciated.
It is.
It is, yes.
That's right, because when you don't have, or you're going through a situation like you were explaining, a little bit, it means so much to someone that is struggling. So I want to ask, have either of you had dealt with anyone that had both situations going on at the same time? I know you worked in both capacities.
I have, and you know, I can think of a very recent example, but I'd like to say, you know, first we know that domestic violence increases in times of high stress.
Okay.
And when you're looking at any, you know, chronic illness, you know, whether it's breast cancer or heart disease or anything, you're looking at the financial aspects of that. As expensive as healthcare
Right.
is, that's going to be a problem. So, you know, you may have a situation where, you know, maybe finances are being withheld. You know, there's that economic abuse.
Yes.
You know, it could be the emotional abuse, like I'm not going to
Right.
support you. And maybe that comes from a situation where someone was already aggressive and had those tendencies and it just got exacerbated. Maybe it is their own fear because we don't know how to talk about this and we don't raise our men to talk about their feelings and their fear.
Right.
You know, right? So they don't have the lingo, and we need to give our boys and our girls this lingo, you know, moving forward. But I received an email about a week ago from a friend who was concerned about a friend of hers. They should have been divorced already, this friend said, but she was diagnosed with breast cancer and she needs the insurance. So he's resentful because he feels that she is using him for his insurance, and it wasn't a situation where she felt it would ever get physical, but it doesn't always have to be, because the emotional, you know, effects,
Right.
you know, right, and you can speak to this, Renita, the emotional effects of, you know, that emotional or economic abuse is just
Be
as
just as
debilitating.
It could be just as bad. Withholding, just like you said, withholding someone from being able to seek medical attention, to be able to seek, to even have access to a bank account. You know, simple things like that. We don't think about those things as domestic violence. We don't. We just think, oh, it's just occurring. It's not that deep. It's not that big. But just because that person didn't put their hands on you, doesn't mean that it's not. And, you know, often I think that we don't talk enough about how illness is directly correlated with stress. Going through domestic violence, just like we said, it takes many shapes and forms, and it's not just physical abuse.
Right.
And so, you know, you're allowing stress to enter the body, which could lead to depression. It could lead to PTSD. It could lead to breast cancer. It could lead to other chronic illnesses and diseases that now you have to figure out, how do I deal with this disease? And then how do I also deal with the emotional impact of what it is that I'm going through?
Right.
So it's about that communication piece. It's about learning young and teaching young how to openly express our thoughts, our needs, our wants, our desires, but understand that you can still have your own autonomy is extremely important. And I don't think most of us know how to effectively communicate. I'm still learning.
Yeah.
I can openly say that, but it's about taking the time to do so.
Yeah, my husband will tell you I'm still learning. So, but it is, and we need to laugh, and you know, you make those little jokes sometimes. But you know, sometimes you do, and even when you talk to women who have been given sort of this path to empowerment, whether it's through an organization like Shades of Pink, where you know they were able to just rest and say, okay, I don't have to worry about my mortgage, and we're just beginning to study the effects of stress and health and really understand, you know, stress and health and, you know, how they're intertwined. So when you take that off the table and you sort of take that variable out of there, they're able to focus on themselves and advocate for themselves. You know, and I think whether it's cancer treatment or domestic violence, if we can put women on that path to empowerment, you know, then amazing things will happen. And I think the other reason it's great that you brought the two of our organizations together
Right,
here today,
right.
Definitely.
because we don't always get to talk. You know, it's always
Right.
like, well, what do I give? Do I give to breast cancer? Do I give to domestic
Right.
violence? Do I give to research? Do I give more grassroots? It's so hard to know. But, you know, wherever you're giving money to, it kind of all comes full circle. It comes together.
It does.
Right, and you can always divide that, $10 here, $10
yes,
there,
definitely.
20.
Yeah,
So,
there you go.
I mean, it's just no excuse for us to say, well, I couldn't give. You can always give.
You can. A dollar goes a long way.
Right, and then I wanted to say, you had talked about before the husband and wife situation where they hadn't gotten a divorce, and as you were saying that, I thought about, well, wow, a lot of times people say, well, you're married, so you have income, but not necessarily. If that other person, you could be married to them, but they don't want to give you any of their money or share the money. So that's even a bigger stressor.
Right, hiding the money.
Right,
You know,
right.
sometimes, you know, we do have sort of secondary economies that are, you know, are going around. And so if you're making your money, you know, quote, under the table or something like that, there's often no ways of even proving that the money is there.
Exactly.
And when you look at, you know, it's not just the cost of going to the doctor and paying that visit. It's the drug cost, it's the co-pays, it's the premiums, it's, you know, all of those things. We hear from patients who, you know, their, you know, deductibles are like, I don't know, $10,000, just these ridiculous amounts of money.
Right.
And I don't know anyone, whether, you know, working class or, you know, upper middle, I don't know anyone who can sustain that for very long, honestly.
And then another point is you need a support system for both
yeah.
programs.
Right.
You need
do.
that. So what if you're just out there by yourself? You're just out there, home alone. So those are things that you need to look at too. Donating time. Time.
Yes. Yeah, volunteering.
Right.
You know, so just spreading the word, being an ambassador. If you find an organization that resonates with you and that really speaks to your personal message, be an ambassador. Get out there and talk about it. You know, and share your story. You know, as women, our power is in our numbers.
Right.
It really is. And there are things that you know, they really do kind of, you know, transcend the, you know, all of the socioeconomic divides that, you know, we kind of fit ourselves into, and we sort of self-regulate our communities. You know, these topics transcend that, and you know, as women, you know, put our voices together and
Definitely.
unstoppable. Unstoppable.
Right.
That's why we're here today.
Exactly. And, you know, and it's so great because also this weekend was the Women's March here, right, in Detroit.
Right.
So, you know, we have this empowerment. It's just all over the city.
It is.
Right.
It is.
It's a great thing. Before we end, I do want to bring up this question I just thought of with abuses when one parent pulls the child or play with the children to choose a side or to withhold, I don't know, they might be separated visitation or something. How could either of you speak on that situation when it comes to
Yes.
this topic?
So with us, it's often questioned about how do I get a PPO.
Okay.
With getting a PPO, that puts the courts right in place. That helps to delegate that time. That helps to establish your rights, because now you have a paper trail. Now you have something that sticks out. Each parent, you have a right to have access to your child, but it comes into play when you're not appreciating that life that you have created. And so it's about going to the court. It's about getting the courts involved. It's okay. It's okay.
Right.
Because I can tell you that you would allow more stress to your child by not putting something in place to make sure that things are done easy, diligently. But now that child has to take on that stress. You know, so putting those things in place so that time is spent accordingly. There has to be there doesn't have to be a back and forth. The court said this is what it is, and it's okay. And so allowing the child to still see the other parent, but to receive care and help as well is extremely important.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to end here. It was a great conversation today. It's always when we have organizations that come in that share so much information with us, we like to have them back. So we're going to have Shades of Pink and My Sister's Keeper to come back and do a quarterly, you know, conversation, because this is not something that needs to end.
No.
Because these situations and topics, they don't end. They occur day to day. And of course, you know, it's not just a national month and then we say, oh, well, it ended. See you next year. No.
Right.
We want to keep the conversation going. We want to keep the momentum. We want to see that shelter. We want to see more women getting, the help that they need and the help, and more organizations coming together, networking. That's what we're here for on this platform, is the networking. So, Detroit, look for more from these organizations on Empowered Living. They will be back, and they will be doing a Girl Talk episode where you will see them on the panel talking about breast cancer awareness and also domestic violence. So we're going to end right here. And from Regina and I, Shades of Pink, and from my sister's keeper, we want to say happy Sunday to you and stay empowered, Detroit.
If you hear this message, wherever you stand, I'm calling every woman, calling every man. We're the generation, we can't afford to wait. The future started yesterday, and we're already late.